Welcome back, friends, to the Discovering Your Calling podcast. And I am so excited to have my new friend Hannah on the show. And she's also a new podcaster. We met in a podcast group and we were just chatting before we hit the record button. And so many parallels, different backgrounds, different course, but I can't wait to really dive into this conversation with Hannah, because I think it's going to be so powerful for you to hear Hannah's journey. And there's probably going to be some parts that you can relate to. So Hannah, I would love to have you, or first, just welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And I also wanted to say thank you for just everything that you're doing. I absolutely love the title of your podcast. I love the message and what you've been sharing so far. I just think it's so important. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for saying that. I am excited. I do feel like this is my calling to share and inspire people to find their calling. And you have a story to share about that. So why don't we jump in, Hannah, if you want to share, like, where were you and maybe even a time frame? And then what are you doing today that's more in line with your calling?
Yeah, so a lot has happened in the last 10-year period, I would say. I've been through a lot of different iterations of my business. So I started off about 10 years ago. I was at college and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I chose to go to law school because it was a way to be a student for another couple of years and not have to make any big decisions yet. And then so I qualified as a lawyer. I was a divorce attorney and I did that for about 5 years. And then it just wasn't feeling right anymore. So I made the decision to leave and I started writing, which is what I've always felt like was calling to me. But I started copywriting. So I was in the marketing space for lawyers. And I did that for about 2 years. And we were just talking about how in the last couple of months, I've now left writing for lawyers completely. And I've started working, doing what I really want to do, which is helping female entrepreneurs and spiritual entrepreneurs with their copywriting. And there's no way I would have known this is what I'd be doing 10 years ago, but I'm having so much fun and it just feels right and it feels aligned and it seems easy and that now that I'm doing it as my job every single day. But a lot of things had to happen. I had to learn a lot to get here.
I love that so much. And it's such the quintessential journey of finding your calling. And we're going to come back. I want to kind of go through all the stages because you are so in the majority of people out there that they, the thing to do is graduate high school, go to college, get a good degree, get the job, buy the house, have the 2 I don't even know what it is. Actually, the number's lower now. I don't know if it's 1.5. I don't know how many children you have now, have the children, stay at the job until you retire and then start enjoying life. Like that's what we're told to do. And so many people go on that path, but it doesn't work for us. And it's like, and you shared like something didn't feel right. So talk a little bit about that. Like, how did you know that that wasn't the path for you?
I think even when I was making the decision to go to law school, I can take myself back to when I was lying in bed in my dorm room and I was on the laptop. And I remember just being really, I've been to therapy for a couple of years and I've discovered personal development and read all of these books and listened to podcasts and I try and meditate every day. So I wasn't doing any of that at the time. So it's very easy for me to look back now and see what was going on. But at the time when I was making that decision, it did feel like my beliefs were absolute truths. Like there was no other option. So I remember thinking that the only thing I was good at was being in school and learning, so that I had to take another course in college and go to law school because that's really all that I was good at, and that I didn't have a big enough network to get a job straight away, and that if I wanted to earn lots of money, I had to take that further education and get a typical corporate job if I wanted to earn the types of money. So I remember being in that mindset and not really knowing any different, and that felt very real to me at the time. But now I look back, I was just so in my mind and not in my heart and my stomach and how it felt in the rest of my body. And I think I did have some maybe twinges, but I was ignoring them and pushing them down. And I just made every decision at that time just from my mind, and also not taking the time to just get quiet and ask myself, is this really what I want? Or am I just making quick decisions and moving from that place? And I think as time went on, it's harder to ignore those. I think more and more of these feelings came up, and I don't think they ever go away. I think they just get louder. So yeah, it started to become obvious that that wasn't going to be sustainable. I mean, working as a lawyer, there were some good times, but it is a lot of stress and pressure and imposter syndrome being newly qualified. I don't think you ever really fully can know everything. You're always going to have clients come in that you haven't seen before. So it was just a lot of that difficulty, really. And it started to seem not worth it and not sustainable. And I just couldn't, I'd only been practicing for about 5 years. I just really couldn't imagine that going on for any much longer.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I think we make what you shared about, we make these decisions from a practical viewpoint. Well, it just makes sense. Why wouldn't I want to do this? And as you shared, it's coming from our head, not in our heart and our gut. And also what you shared about just being so busy, we don't take time to really be quiet and still, and do the meditation, or even just sit with yourself and really judge those things. I think we all know deep inside what we really want. It's scary though.
I saw an interview with Danielle Laporte, and she said whenever she's at a crossroads, she will just lie down in bed and put her hands on her gut and just ask herself, as if she's talking to the 7-year-old her, she just asks herself, what do you want? How can I help you? And it could be as simple as, I'm hungry, or, I'm angry and I need to vent, or it could be bigger things to do with your career and the next move that you're going to make. Just, we're not taught to ask ourselves in that feeling, bodily, intuitive way, what do you actually want? And I think if I'd have known that at the time and been in this kind of space that I am now, I probably wouldn't have even ended up there. Well, I definitely wouldn't have.
Right. And that's a whole nother conversation. Like, I could take a big shift right now. We could go deep into that whole thing. I love all of that so much. But I'm going to keep us on this path today. How did you know? So, you shared that about 5 years in, that it really became evident that those feelings that you couldn't ignore anymore. What did that feel like to you?
I think I started to feel more in touch with what was going on internally. So a lot of law, and probably a lot of corporate jobs, your validation comes from external circumstances. So if you win a case, or if you get a great review from a client, that affects whether you have a good day or not. And I started to, as I learned about meditating, and sort of started doing some of this work, because I knew something was off. I knew that I wasn't happy, and I knew that I was tired all the time, but I didn't exactly know what was causing that. I started to learn that I could affect whether I had a good day just by deciding to myself, and that I could create that for me. But that didn't match with the career that I was in because of all the stress and just the way that you're billing clients. You have targets, having to get on with colleagues and having other lawyers that you're having to communicate with in not sort of nice ways. Sometimes it's very, litigation is just argumentative by its nature. You're just fighting with people all day, and that started to just not be possible to continue in that career with everything that I was learning about wanting to just make myself happy. It kind of, I was finding it actually wasn't physically possible for the two to walk together. So it was just the fact as well that it wasn't going to be sustainable to continue to that. So I had to choose one, and I chose sort of what I felt I wanted to live my life like for the next 50 or so years.
I love that. And do you feel like then it was a gut decision to leave?
Yeah, I think it was an impulse, but I think it had been building up. So I saw I started seeing Facebook ads and Instagram ads for this copywriting course, and they really spoke to me. So I feel like my gut and my intuition told me that maybe that was what was next for me. So at the time, it seemed like a quick impulse decision that I bought this copywriting course, which taught you how to make money as a copywriter and all of the business side from it. But I feel like all of the feelings had been building up to get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I totally get that. I know when I was ready to make the decision to leave my 25 years in direct sales, where I thought I was going to be forever, it was actually at the height of my career. But the same thing, there's just this internal, and it's so hard to put it into words, isn't it? Like what you're feeling, but it's just this gnawing of like something isn't right anymore. What once felt, and it felt great for me for years, but it was just started to have this gnawing. I always say it's angst, and I can't describe it any more than that. It was just this knowing that this isn't serving me well anymore. I don't belong here anymore. And it almost became like this out of body experience of when I showed up to things, I was almost felt like I don't fit. Like, why am I here in this room? It's just like, this isn't where I belong anymore. It was just so weird. It's so hard to describe to people. And it took a little way. It took me a time to be brave enough to say, it's time to leave that position. So I totally can relate to everything you just shared. So when you decided to step away, so you spent all this time, all this money, got the law degree, you're practicing. On the outside, it probably like looked like you had it made. You had arrived. And then now all of a sudden you're going to share with people, hey, I'm leaving this. How did that go over? Like, did you have pushback from people?
I remember having conversations. Just what you shared was beautifully expressed and probably describes it better than I could, because you're right, it is just a out of body experience that is hard to put into words. But I remember having conversations with my mum when I was having more and more bad days, and we're kind of the family that says, just keep your head up, don't let it get to you, just carry on. You're just having a bad month, but
that's the way life goes, right? Suck it up, exactly. Buttercup, right?
Yeah, and even that would really annoy me. So I think that helped with these feelings that are building up. Is maybe in the past, a few years ago, I would have said, you know what, you're right, I am just going to get my head down and this will pass. But I couldn't let it go at that point. And even people trying to tell me just it was a bad period, actually made me feel quite angry. So I think that was, again, trusting my gut that this wasn't something that I was going to let go and forget about. But I think a lot of what I was hearing for pushback was coming from my assumptions, because actually when I'd made the move, a lot of people told me they were proud of me and that I'd inspired them. I mean, my mum's now, she was a teacher. She's now quit her job and has started a tutoring business. And she said she wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for watching me go out on my own. And a couple of friends, I've just assumed that, yeah, they would have all these beliefs about what it meant for me, and maybe that I've, lost it, or that I'm not strong enough to continue being a lawyer, or just assuming all these negative things, and actually none of that existed. It was the opposite. So I think I could have, it's the self-talk in your head. I could have talked myself out of it for that reason. And actually what happened in reality was a lot more positive than I would have ever expected.
I love that. Like, I am tearing up here, and I am not a crier. Like, I don't tear up easily, but I'm actually tearing up, Hannah, hearing that, of how you're being brave enough, because it takes bravery to step away from the norm into, I call the beyond the ordinary. Like, that's what we do when we follow our calling, is stepping into the beyond the ordinary, and that's how we become extraordinary. But it takes guts, it takes bravery, it's courage to do that. And the fact that you did that and impacted your mom and other people in your circle, and probably even people that you have no idea were even watching what you did, and gave them that inspiration to, wait a minute, if she can do this, I can do this. So, that's so exciting.
Thank you. And I think it's so nice for you to say that, because even though all of that has happened, I'm still quite down on myself, and I would never say those sorts of things to myself. So I don't think, the self-talk and the doubts ever go away. I think it's just acknowledging that they're going to be there and doing it anyway. And I want to share as well, just, I think it would be useful for people that, yes, it was a lot of brave decisions, but it wasn't sort of one point where I had just had enough and handed my notice in and said, I'm done. So I bought the copywriting course when I was still practicing. And I think that was about maybe $2,000, which at the time, we just got married, we just bought a new house. $2,000 on a course that I didn't even know was going to lead to anything was a lot of money. So I felt like that was the first brave step of just investing in this course. And if I'd spent that money, it wasn't just going to sit in my email box. I was going to show up to the classes and follow it. And then I got my first copywriting client while I was still practicing. So I was writing on evenings and weekends. And I think even sending the first cold emails to people saying, I'm a copywriter, would you like to work with me? I remember being sat at my laptop and having to do a Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 send. I think that was a brave step as well. And then, yeah, to eventually get more clients and be in a position to leave was brave as well. But it doesn't happen that it's just one brave day you wake up. I think it's a lot of little courageous decisions to make certain changes can build up to that point.
Right. That is definitely the smart way to do it. And that's something, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I feel that angst, I understand what Hannah and Sherry are talking about, and it's time to make a change. We don't recommend go in and turn in your resignation that day. It's start moving towards something else. Try it. It may or may not even be the right thing, but take a step towards it like Hannah did. And, if it is investing in a course or reading a book or doing something, maybe you already have the hobby you've been doing, do more of it. Start asking, do it as a business on the side, test it out. Then you'll know when it's time to totally step away. I feel like those that turn in their resignation right away, you've gone too far. You've gone to the point of total stressed out, burned out. I can't take another day of this. And that puts you in a tough spot. So doing it the way Hannah did is a smart, less stressful way to start moving towards your calling. So I know, Hannah, when you first did it, you started working with lawyers for copywriting. But so let's talk. We were talking about this earlier before we hit the record. Love for you to share a little bit about like why you did that first, but then where it kind of left you even in your mindset to continue to keep moving.
Yeah, so initially I found it really easy to get law firm clients. So I was writing their websites, writing blogs, social media for them. And I would say in my cold email, I am a divorce attorney. I've had divorce clients. I know who you are. I know who your clients are. I'm really good at legal research, and kind of they loved that. And I think I then got lots of feedback for a couple of years that was something that clients really loved about me, and it made it really easy. And again, as I was writing these blogs, I started to get really bored, and it wasn't fun for me anymore. I think initially making the money and feeling that I was being paid just to sit at home and write was a thrill and exciting, and I really enjoyed it for about a year. And then it was starting to feel like hard work, and I ignored it for probably about 6 months because I was back in my dorm room telling myself that that's all I was good at, and that's I'd done all these brave moves to start my own business and tell people I'm a copywriter, and that's it. I don't have any more courage inside me, and maybe feeling a bit burnt out from the entrepreneur, everything that comes with being an entrepreneur. But the niggling feeling again just didn't go away, and I could visualize and dream about writing for mindset coaches, and I just wanted to write for other people, helping others. It didn't matter what their business was or what their product was. That felt really fun to me, but I didn't know how to approach them. And I was thinking that I need evidence of who I've helped in the past. All I've done is write for law firms. I don't have any statistics to show how much money my copy's made for these type of people. And I just really talked myself out of it for a long time. And it was also, I felt like the law was part of my identity. I think I wasn't in touch with who I really am, which is a creative person, someone who loves helping others, someone who loves inspiring others and lifting them up and helping them shine, which is who I am. And that's what I wanted to do as a copywriter for other people. But there was something, again, I'm struggling to put it into words, but there was something inside me holding me back and stopping me from jumping in with 2 feet, telling people that this is who I am and this other type of people that I want to help, because all I'd done in the past was law, or even in the writing was writing for law firms. It took a lot, probably more than actually leaving my job as a lawyer, just to change who I told people that I wanted to write for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think our identity does get so stuck in what we've been doing. And, maybe it was because like I said, I kind of had this myself, but it's more socially acceptable to say I write for lawyers. That sounds good. Then I write for creatives. Like, what does that even mean? Like, it's hard. Again, sometimes we go into this, like, it's harder to describe that. So maybe that's what holds us back from really stepping into that true calling again. I don't know. Was that part of it maybe?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's taking that validation from external circumstances again, rather than just being. So I used to feel really proud when I would tell people that I'm a lawyer, because it's got connotations that you've worked really hard at law school, kind of professional, and just all of the connotations that came with telling people I was a lawyer. I still felt when I would tell people that I write for law firms, and my ego and that side of me really enjoyed that. And I felt kind of a warm glow, the fact that I did something that maybe people think is difficult, or yeah, and it's forgetting that actually I can feel proud in myself just because I decide to, and I can feel that warm glow in myself without needing to attach, well, I can feel proud because I've done something really hard, or because I've helped someone going through a difficult time. I can just feel proud because, and I think that's where the shift then allowed me to move forwards. But I think a lot of the identity is tied to how it makes you feel from other people's validation, which isn't what you need and doesn't last forever and isn't sustainable.
Right. Goes back to, it's like, how many likes did I get on that post? How many?
Yes.
And we all fall in. I mean, I fell into that today. I launched the day we're recording this, November 16th. I launched my new podcast. And I'm not going to lie, I have looked to see how many downloads have I had today? Like, we look to these outside metrics so much. And those aren't the things that are going to sustain us and keep us truly happy. It's not what we're put on earth to do. And if we can really learn to, like you said, look to ourselves, look inside to find the true joy, or are we living in our calling? Are we making a difference? Are we making an impact? And look to those things to feel satisfied, which is not easy to do at all, especially it's never been easy, but today it's harder and harder because we are such an outward society, everything's based on social media and likes and downloads and all the things. So it's hard to do that. So how is it going now?
I am really happy now. I've got all sorts of different clients. I'm currently writing a sales page for a spiritual medium, which is just so exciting and fun, and really easy as well. I have met so many amazing women business owners who are so passionate about their businesses, and I feel like they could talk about it all day, every day, but something happens when you're writing copy that when you open up a blank page and you sit down to write your website or write a social media post, everything just goes to mush and you lose it. So it's been so fun helping people with their copy, and I feel like I genuinely am helping people shine and see the best in themselves and put that into words. And now that I've been doing it for a couple of months, it just seems so obvious, and it is really easy. And I've got that evidence that my brain is still craving that I am helping people. I think maybe there was a bit of doubt there around whether it was actually needed, and why can't people just write their own sales pages? Why would they need me? And actually it just took my very first client, who wasn't a law firm, to give some good feedback, and it's like the whole world just opens up, and you've got that example that you can then keep telling yourself that yes, this is needed, there is a space for me doing what my heart tells me I want to do. So that was a really big deal, even just getting the first client, just to have that example.
Yeah. And did you immediately feel a difference when you finished that or worked with that client versus what you had been doing with the other lawyers? Like, how did it feel different?
It just felt a lot lighter. It didn't feel like work. I'm still in a phase where I can't believe that people are paying me to help them like this, because I feel like I've become good friends with a lot of my clients because I find out about their stories, and what they're working on day to day. So we become quite close, and it's just feels so much fun that I get to earn money and talk to people who I'd be friends with and help them out in their business. And it's just exciting thinking about the future as well. I think I'm a lot more open to where this might go. I don't think I'm stuck to, okay, I have to do this for the next 10 years. It actually feels a lot like a lot of things are moving quite quickly now that I've found my groove. And it's just, I think before it felt very heavy and static and like you're just kind of going through the motions day by day. But now it's like just exciting, visualizing the future. It's going to be a surprise what happens next. And that just feels like such a joy.
I love that. And yeah, I know when I kind of shifted 3 years ago, and I kind of had a similar journey of just, working with clients that weren't in alignment with who I really wanted to work with. I didn't know who I really wanted to work with, but I just kind of rode the wave. And, sometimes it was, like you said, it was really hard. And even though it was successful and clients, said great things about how I served them, but it just didn't feel still in alignment with me. So I totally get that. And then when I realized my calling is helping people find their calling this summer, 3 years into this business, like you said, it just started like, wait, this is so much easier. I felt like I was sometimes hitting a brick wall when I was trying to force myself to step into other, I was trying to do corporate trainings, go in to take, I love Clifton Strengths. Everything I've always done has been around the Clifton Strengths, but I was trying to take that into corporate America or continue to work with other direct sales teams. And even though, yes, I could do it, it was just like a brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. And when you figure it all out, it's just like, wow, this is so fun. This is so easy. And I want to keep doing more of this. So that's when you've landed in the right area, right?
Yeah, and I think just looking back, it must seem so obvious to you now that you're here, but clearly there was just something missing. But I do believe that you have to go through all of those iterations to end up finding out what your calling is. It's never a straight line. It's never you get there straight away. And I think even when you go through failures or you try different things and it feels a little bit better, but then you're hitting that brick wall, I think that has to happen for you to then take that feedback, recognize how that's feeling, and then make some adjustments to then move forward to the next piece. I think the only way that you can fail in finding your calling is if you stop trying. But if you keep pushing forwards and getting those brick walls and then taking that as feedback that, okay, what can I tweak here? What's going well? What's not going well? Adjust, and then just keep rinsing and repeating that. You're going to end up there as long as you never stop.
Right. Right. And yeah, I think the only way that you can't find it is if you stay stuck in the job that's really not lighting you up and that's stressing you out.
Yeah.
One last question for you is, I hear this from some of my clients that when they're in that position of staying in that job that they know is not where they need to be anymore, the stress affects so many areas of their life, health, relationships, just mental well-being, versus like when you do step into your calling. Can you speak to that? Did you feel that when you were in the wrong place? And then how is it now? Like what's changed for any of those areas that maybe you were affected by?
Yeah, I think there was a time when I experienced depression. I was never diagnosed, but I had days where it felt like a successful day if I just actually got out of bed and made it to the office. And it wouldn't matter what happened in the office that day. I would congratulate myself just for making it there. And exhaustion as well. I think I didn't really have time to build relationships with my family and friends on a deeper level, because I would just be working 9 till 6 every day, get home, cook dinner, and then I was just exhausted and felt like I just run a marathon every single day. And actually, now that I've left England and moved to Texas, I speak to my family more that I'm out of the country, because I'm just have so much that I'm excited about, and it feels a lot lighter. And even if I have days where I am sat at my computer every day, it doesn't feel like work, or it doesn't feel like I'm trying to play a part anymore. I think a lot of when I was a lawyer, I was trying to act like I thought a lawyer should have to act, and that led to a lot of the exhaustion, because I was always having to remember and check myself, and is this something that the lawyer character that I'm playing would do? And then I was just kind of a shell when I got home. So really just doing a lot of work on integrity and being my authentic self. I've kind of managed to shed a lot of that and just be comfortable being who I am, which has led to a lot deeper relationships with everyone in my life.
I love that. I love that. Yes. When you're in your calling, it's just so freeing and it's not exhausting and it's not always easy. No job ever is. And being an entrepreneur
Mm-hmm.
definitely is not always easy. But there is that lightness of it and showing up as you shared with, integrity and authentically yourself. And I'm chuckling here listening to you about the, showing up and how's the lawyer supposed to look? Because I remember going to, our direct sales meetings and we were supposed to wear a dress and heels and the big earrings and all the things. And that was never me. Never. And I could play the part really well, really well. But as I'm hearing you, I'm like, yeah, that was what was so exhausting about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep. Trying to even just dress the right way.
Yeah.
And, I love working from home. We're both sitting in our, homes. My cat's on my desk. Don't always like that, but the sweater and the jeans and, sometimes my pajama pants. I don't know, so sometimes I still wear a dress, but it's my choice that day. It's not because I have to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So any advice, Hannah, for anybody that is where you were when you were feeling that, those first feelings as a lawyer or even way back, maybe somebody's listening that is in college and they're laying on their dorm bed and having those thoughts. So they may be way back there, or they may be in the career right now and they're having those thoughts. Any advice for taking that first step? Like, what would you share with them?
I think the biggest thing is taking time to just get quiet, and to build up your intuition and to just really ask yourself what you want. And it doesn't have to be a huge answer. You don't have to know exactly the career choice that you're going to take next, or the business that you're going to build, or who your ideal client is. You don't need to know any of that. You just need to ask yourself, what is the one next small step that feels good and that feels a little bit fun and easy and joyous, and just to move from there. And it can be the tiniest step. It might seem insignificant to you, but just to build up that muscle of asking yourself first before making decisions. And I think if you get used to sort of moving through life from that space, it would have stopped a lot of the kind of fast decision making from the brain that I made. And you could decide to do that now, or you could go 10 years down the path in the wrong career and decide to do it then. So it's always easier and less stressful to just decide to do it now. And also, I think that there's so much out in the world. When you start moving from that place, you just see how much abundance is really there, and that there are so many clients out there who would fit your personality and what your calling is. there's no such thing as competition in my mind. I just believe that everyone has their people who are for them. So making decisions about what you want to do based on how competitive it is and how saturated the market is and what other people's price points are is just all, again, you're moving from your mind. I think, what would you do if really the world was as big as it is and you really could find your people and move from that place?
I love that. So beautifully said. And it is amazing once you start stepping into that, how many things open up. It's like, wait, I never knew there are people that do that and people get paid to do that. Like, you'll be surprised at what you can create when you follow your calling and just step into it and just kind of be curious. Just be curious
Yeah.
and start this little journey of like, what else is out there? Because you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked when you do. So before we sign off here, Hannah, do you want to share a little bit about what your new podcast is? And then how can people, if they want to follow your journey and learn more about what you do, or maybe they are listening and they just started a business like, oh, I need a copywriter. How can they find you?
Yeah, so if you'd like to take a look at my copywriting portfolio to see some of the types of people that I've written for and how a copywriter could maybe elevate the way that you speak about yourself and really make yourself shine, then my website is hmicopyagency.com and my portfolio is on there. And I'm also starting a podcast called I Am a Writer, which is for fiction writers. It's for everybody who feels like they've got a book or a story inside of them. They've maybe had this craving to let that burst out of them, but for whatever reason, life's got in the way and it hasn't happened yet. So I'll be working through myself to try and get this book that I've been writing for about 15 years finished. So it'll be following along with my journey and then interviews with published authors about maybe the more technical, strategic side to writing. So that's starting in January, but there's a first episode which will be up before then.
Yay, yay. Hannah and I met in a podcast group. So we are celebrating each other for just getting our podcast, me rebranding, hers out there, and just doing it because it is a journey to just do it. What's your book going to be about? Or can you share that or not? Yeah.
So I'm working on 2. I don't know if this is just an excuse to then not finish one. So one is kind of a memoir about the last year leaving England and moving to Del Rio, Texas, which really is in the middle of nowhere, and sort of everything that's happened in the last year. And then I'm writing a fiction piece, which is about, loosely based on my grandma's mum, who was a farmer in the Yorkshire Dales, which is countryside, again, middle of nowhere. And it's just a strong feminist character because everything that I'm doing in building my business, I feel like I'm doing it for the women in my family in the past who couldn't go to college, who didn't have all the opportunities that we have, who couldn't jump on Zoom and make amazing connections with people like you and the other people that you'll be interviewing. And I just really want to show their strength and resilience, even if they didn't, build these big businesses and make lots of money just in their everyday, sort of doing it for them.
I love that. I can't wait to see those on the bestsellers list in the future. We will follow that journey for sure. Well, Hannah, this has been such a pleasure to get to know you, to hear your story. And I have a feeling you definitely are going to inspire some of the listeners And if you are listening to Hannah and I today, and you are inspired by something, reach out to both of us. Let us know, because that's the one thing as a podcaster, sometimes it can be very lonely because we don't get likes, we don't get instant comments, we don't get the instant feedback that somebody that posts something does. So send us a message. I'll have Hannah's links in the show notes, and just let us know what impacted you. And of course, if you have a story inside of you, reach out to Hannah to follow her journey and write your book along with her. That'll be super fun. And if you're searching for your calling, reach out to me and let's figure out what that is. And at least, as Hannah shared, take that first step towards it. So, Hannah, anything else that you want to add before we sign off here?
No, just to thank you again for your time and for this discussion. I feel like it's been 30 minutes of therapy for me, just reflecting back. So that's been really useful. So yeah, just thank you and wishing you all the best of luck.
Oh, well, thank you. And we will be in touch. I'm sure it's going to be fun to follow each other's journey.